Very good. It's 1:02 and we have a quorum, so we will begin the EDIC meeting for today. We have 3 items on the agenda. Number 1, approve tax exempt review committee meetings of 7/26/22. If there are any changes or corrections, otherwise we will accept a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do you have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, Packet Digital Property Tax Exemption Application. Jim Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Packet Digital has an application for a property tax exemption for a project. It's up on 7th Avenue North, on the north side of 7th Avenue North, just west of the interstate. You may recall that they had an application before us about 2 years ago. At that point, they were moving to a new location on South University. Their employment then was 18, and they anticipated that they'd be adding 13 people within the next year. They've been there a little over a year. They've already added the 15 jobs, and they're looking at additional expansion at this site. It's a new application. The building was constructed in 1994. They'll be leasing the building. It has a value of $872,000, so there's a property tax savings of about $12,000 to $12,500 a year for 5 years. They're looking at creating 13 jobs over the next 2 years at $30 an hour plus benefits that are valued at about $7 an hour. So received a very good score, and we're recommending approval. Ryan, I don't know if you want to make some comments about the company, and then we'll have Terry Zimmerman from Packet Digital give us a short presentation.
Hi, Ryan Oss. I'm with the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation, and I think Jim stole most of my thunder, but I'll just kind of reiterate, this is really what we want to see when we're working with companies that are in high tech and diversifying space, that they're coming back to say like, hey, we're growing again. We appreciate the support from the city on the pilot request last year. As Jim mentioned, they moved into a space on South University. They've got some pretty significant defense and military contracts, Air Force Research Lab, Lockheed Martin, and a host of others that I'm sure Terry will touch on. But that's led them to say we need more space. We're going to be doing some significant manufacturing, and we have to ensure to these contractors that we have the space and the capabilities, and frankly, some of the equipment that they need to move in won't fit in the space that they have. So this is kind of the next evolution for the company, and we couldn't be more thrilled. So as Jim mentioned, they were moved into 11,000 square feet last year. They'll be moving into expanding into 24,000 square feet of more space. As Terry mentioned, they're going to be doing some significant renovation and improvements to the building, so they'll be breathing new life into an existing building that needs some attention. And just a quick calculation on the current 33 employees they're at, average salaries are approximately $85,000. So good paying jobs, diversifying economically, connection to the aerospace industry, and bringing in, I think, some much needed defense and military contracting that we typically end up being a little bit low performing as a state and a region in that regard. So with that, I'm gonna ask Terry to come up. She's got a very short presentation, but I think it's interesting to kind of hear what exactly is going to be going on in some of their facilities.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Ryan. Packet Digital is an engineering firm with an emphasis in power electronics. As you can see on this slide, the building on the top is the building we moved into in May of 2021. It's 11,500 square feet with about 3,000 square feet of production space. We converted a garage into production space, and with the growth that we're having and the new contracts we're closing, it's just not enough production space. So we really want to add to our production capabilities. So we're here to talk about the project that you see below on the slide. So I'm first going to talk a little bit about our company, the projects that we're working on or the companies we work with, and then this specific project and our team. So we've been around for about 18 years. We have 150 years of engineering leadership experience. We have about 13 patents and with 2 pending, so we've been working on innovative solutions and bringing those to the market. We have 18 plus years of these products in the marketplace today. On the right-hand side, you can see we build battery packs, charging solutions. Everything we do has some sort of software involved. We build fleet management for batteries. We have safety protocols. That's kind of why our customers come to us, not only for power efficiency, but the safety that we bring to the solutions in managing current and voltage and then managing those fleet of batteries. So on the right-hand side, you can see we build power electronics, kind of like what I brought here today as well. So this is a battery management system, and as I walk through some of the customers that we work with, you'll see some of the products that we do. So we've worked on high performance vehicles like electric race cars and electric aviation, and now we're working on the next generation space vehicles. So we work with some of the most demanding customers in the world. We have a lot of military customers, as Ryan mentioned. We work with Army, Navy, SOCOM, Air Force Research Lab, NASA. We've had design wins with Apple and Intel and a number of commercial customers as well, and I'll talk about some of those. We've also had recognition as a leader in the marketplace. I don't know if you're familiar with Gartner Group, but they listed us as one of the top power vendors in the United States, so we're excited to receive that award. We've also been on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. So some of the customers and projects that we're working on, we had just landed Lockheed Martin when we came here about 18 months, 2 years ago, and we needed more space to produce these batteries on the bottom, you can see, and the electronics and charging solution. We've been building these solutions for them, and they have been public about the performance that they've received. We gave them about a 40% improvement in energy density, as well as 10x on cycle life, so a better battery plus lasting longer, and that's led to more wins for us. We're building a solution now, and this is Bell Helicopters BMS that I brought here. It's a battery management system. They came to us wanting safety because you may have read about this drone in the press. They carry a 100-pound payload, and they have a very complex operation. It takes about 60 kilowatts on takeoff and landing, so they need real-time information about the power of their system, and that's what we specialize in, is algorithms for power efficiency and real-time information. After that, you guys may be familiar with Anduril. They're a very large DoD contractor. Lucky Palmer sold his company to Facebook and started a drone business. They just hired us this year to build battery packs for them after they landed 2 $1 billion deals with the DoD. So the photo on the bottom is our manufacturing space in our University Avenue area, 3,000 square feet, and a new welder that we bought for this particular customer. This is the race car that we built battery management systems. We lightened the load on this race car and gave them real-time information so they could make less pit stops. And with the success we've had in unmanned and other applications, we won a contract last year to bring our power systems to space. So we've been working for about a year with the Air Force Research Lab. They partnered us with Northrop Grumman, General Atomics, and we're working on power modules for the next generation space vehicles. In July, when we were at Kirkland Air Force Base, they informed us of the flight they're going to put our systems on. So by 2025, we should be in space with our power systems, so that's pretty exciting. So we recently it was announced that we are winning a $9 million contract with the Navy, which is part of the reason why we need this additional facility. We design all of our own products, but some of the items we send out for production, they want us to bring all of our production in-house. So they want us to buy more equipment. That equipment doesn't fit in the current building that we have. So we want to keep our fantastic corporate headquarters on University Avenue and expand on 7th Avenue North. We're going to be building battery packs for the drones in the Navy fleet and chargers for the Navy ships. So very excited about this new program we're launching with the Navy. I love this project, so I had to mention it. It's our James Bond drone. We're building power modules for a drone that flies for 1 hour, submerges in the ocean for 6 months. So pretty cool product. It kind of reminds me of the last James Bond movie. We have patented a number of our innovative approaches and algorithms to power management, so have secured the technology. So now a little bit on the project. The photo on the bottom is the current building on 7th Avenue North. It's 24,000 square feet. On the upper side, you can see where the office, that's their production area right now. It's basically an open building shell. It has residential power and electricity right now, very limited heat in the building and limited parking. So our plan is to upgrade the outside of the building, put more windows in, and expand the parking. And then the building right now is about a $1.6 million purchase, and we're estimating about $1.5 million in improvements. With that, we'll be bringing an SMT line for all of our electronics assembly. So we'll be doing electronics assembly and manufacturing. We'll be fabricating all of our circuit boards on the 7th Avenue North location. So for the government, we'll be able to eliminate any out-of-state reliance on other suppliers and certainly any out-of-country manufacturers. We're working on our ISO 9000 certification, which we expect to have done by the end of next year. We've passed the ITAR compliance with the government. All of our systems are certified by the government, and we're creating high-paying jobs here in Fargo. This is a view of what we're planning to do. We're going to expand out a little bit in the center, some of the offices area to make room for more jobs, more employees. And then we're going to create a down dock, and then we'll have more inventory storage, a kitting area. We have room for multiple SMT lines. We're going to start with one, but we're definitely leaving room for another one on the other side. And then we are adding 2 more welders to our, I showed you the 1 welder in the 1 photo, so we'll be adding 2 more immediately to support the Navy projects. Yeah, very excited about what we're going to be doing with the building. The team couldn't be more excited about where we're moving to. We have a growing, talented engineering team. We've grown in the last 12 months from 19 to 33 employees. And we beat our estimates that we gave during the when we proposed the growth for the University Avenue project. I remember the mayor said, when you do your next building, make sure you come back to us. And I thought to myself, wow, well, that would really be a dream come true. And now we're doing it, so it's very exciting. I feel like we're conservatively predicting that we'll grow from 33 to 70 jobs in the next 5 years. We're continuing to hire right now and continue to winning more contracts. There's a huge need for U.S.-made solutions, and with the drive towards electrification, huge market demand for what we're doing today from companies all over the world, not just U.S. military, looking to build products in the United States. The average salary increasing to $90,000, and our estimated annual salary would be $6 million at that time. Thank you for the consideration. Is there questions?
Any questions? And I guess, so Jim, if you could summarize, it's 12,000 a year for 5 years.
Yeah, that's on the existing building. Terry, you had checked the lease, so you've
Yep.
actually moved on to a purchase instead? Is that?
Yeah, well, we have a holding company that will be purchasing the building just for liability reasons, and then Packet Digital will lease. So
Okay.
that was what our lawyers recommended.
Anyone else? Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
Mr. Pipcorn would make the motion. I just want to congratulate them for coming back to us and expanding and doing great work. I can hardly wait till the James Bond protocol is in the ocean.
So, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Awesome. Congratulations. Thank you. Last one is the North Dakota Opportunity Fund Consortium, Jim.
Yeah, John Mahachik has been serving as the Fargo representative on this consortium for the last 10 years. And so he kind of knows the history, so maybe I'll just turn it right over to him. But after his discussion, really what I'd like is a motion for you to appoint someone to be the Fargo representative, and then we would put that on the Fargo City Commission agenda. So, John?
Yeah, and I'll try not to get too much into the weeds on the history. So, Opportunity Fund was created about 10 years ago through something called the SSBCI, State Small Business Credit Initiative. In fact, there's one getting funded right now through the Department of Commerce for about $60 million. But back then in 2012, for some reason, we were only one of 2 states that didn't submit our application for it. So there was this federal money that was sitting there. They basically said you can create up to 2 consortiums of cities to take this money. So North Dakota Opportunity Fund was one of the consortiums, and that's one Fargo was part of. I think it was about $9 million is what they got. They created a loan participation program, so a gap financing tool with it. And then it's 38 communities that are part of this. Every community has a steering committee member that you appoint. And there's also a loan committee too that's separately. I'm also on that as well, but that's not what we're talking about today. So I got put on, Fargo appointed me 10 years ago. And then I just have served on there. I've served on the executive committee too since then. And then just as, reviewing it, talking with Joe lately, thinking that, we thought maybe we'd see more primary sector activity on it. We haven't seen too many of those projects. Most recently, co-schedule, one that you guys approved, that did come through. But we thought 10 years, was a good amount of time served on. Again, we weren't seeing as much primary sector, so maybe it was time to put somebody, some new blood on the steering committee. And then just a little bit on that too, and I was talking to John and Jim a little bit before this, of the steering committee itself, at a minimum, they meet once a year. It's more of an oversight kind of check and balance thing. It's administered through Lewis and Clark regional group out of Mandan. So the steering committee basically hears the report from them. And if there's any changes to policies, that happens. So for example, this past year, they added a loan collateral program. So they have the participation, but they also added this collateral program. And that's something the steering committee has to do. And then since I served on the executive committee, I had a couple more meetings a year just to more hear quarterly reports from the staff at Lewis and Clark. So it's really not that difficult, but it's just nice to have someone on there. And it kind of made sense, I think, to have maybe someone from the EDIC group on there to have that and understand it, especially as they added Bank of North Dakota a few years ago, started allowing this fund to be used as a substitute for the FlexPace program. So we have our own growth initiative fund at the EDC that we serve as the community requirement for the PACE program. Well, we limit ours to primary sector projects in Cass County. So what this did is it's kind of an alternative. Hey, if a project comes that doesn't fit our parameters, they can use the Opportunity Fund to serve as the community. So we've seen a little bit of an uptick on use because of that. And again, some of those have come through this committee. You probably saw some recently, and I think that's just even another reason why it'd probably be good to have someone from the EDIC on that to kind of have it more mentally understanding what the Opportunity Fund is. Is that good enough? I try to be really quick on the history. And again, the state of North Dakota did actually fill out an application for this new round. They're creating an angel match program, a direct investment program, and then there's some technical assistance money they're utilizing to help kind of work with startups to help gear them up for the Innovate North Dakota program.
So Jim, what's your, do you have a vision? I guess from my perspective, if anybody's interested, we should start with that. And then if nobody volunteers, then we'll start arm wrestling. Or if we have a volunteer, that would be fantastic. Would you be interested?
Yeah, I'd be interested in doing this, but, anybody else?
I was on it. So when it was first put together. John, I had one question, and the last page here, they have the liquidation value of the fund.
Yep.
This was federal money that was put into play and then came back and defederalized. And it was my understanding that of the 38 cities, the consortium, that a city could decide not to continue with this and get their share of the money back. So is it still the case that Fargo could say, no, we're 2.8, 2.9 million of it?
I mean, kinda, because so when the not memo of understanding, but I can't remember what the agreement was that was created amongst everybody. The language in there states that, yes, the cities can get their money, but 2/3 of the 38 communities have to say, we're dissolving the fund entirely, and then the money's gonna go out. So a city can't go in and request their money.
So,
But
yeah,
the 2/3 of the group could say, we don't want this fund to exist anymore, so we're gonna dissolve it, and then the money would get paid back over years because there's
Right.
probably $8 million in loans out right now, but that's how it's structured.
Yeah, so Fargo was about a third of the allocation to begin with, wasn't it? So
Yeah, and
they'd have
that's how they determined, again, since it was supposed to go just all to the state, which would have been really easy. So what they did is they looked at all the communities that joined the two consortiums, looked at the population of everybody, and then basically prorated all that money based on population is the way they came up with it. So that sheet you have is this kind of a scenario of how that was determined for these 38. And if the fund were to be dissolved, this is what the breakdown would be to everybody.
Well, and the reason I kind of go back to that is they've done a better job recently, but if you look at this sort of the distribution of the incentive across the state, the number of projects in Fargo was not that high compared with the rest of the state. And so I would just point out that as you go on to this, that it'd be something that the city kind of consider it at some point, that this could be pulled back into a city program now without federal restrictions to do an incentive type program going forward, so that you'd have some work to do. You'd have to find another 1/3 of the population of the consortium to vote with you, but it remains a possibility.
Yeah, and I did bring that up when I heard there was a new SSBCI round coming, saying, hey, if Commerce decides to create a redundant program, then why would we need this? But to date, it sounds like Commerce did not create a redundant program, but it's still something I brought up too of, yeah, you're right that probably in those first at least 5 years, we probably maybe saw 5 loans in our region, but we probably saw 5 in the last year here now, which is encouraging to see that. But yeah, and again, I think it's just good to have. It'll be stuff too, like say, so John, if you are appointed, I'll kind of can share information and kind of get you up to speed because I've been part of this for 10 years, so I kind of know the ins and outs of it and the history.
I think, one thing Fargo could do, and maybe this committee could help, is just make more businesses aware of this program. I think people just don't know about it, so they don't apply for it, where in the western part of the state, they're tied in with all the banks out there, and it's well publicized. You're right, though. I think we've had at least 4 applications come through the city commission in the last year I don't know if they've been funded, but the city has to provide a letter of support prior to someone applying.
Well, and John, it seemed in the early days of the programs, they were just doing the match portion of the SBA 504, which to me wasn't a critical need. Don't want to get into 504 loan programs, but typically banks would finance that portion and then wait for the SBA funds to come through. So are they still doing a lot of that?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, at the beginning, I agreed. There really wasn't any economic impact to doing that. And but how it did help the fund at the beginning was that through that, if you recall, for the federal government to cut their strings, you had to turn the money over so many times.
Yep.
So it was a nice way that they used that because the repayment terms were so quick. They were often months to maybe a year. It helped turn that money over way faster. So the federal government cut their strings much sooner. So there's now none of that. But yeah, it still exists, but you don't see it as much. And there was more of it happening at the beginning because things were more hot and heavy out west with the oil activity at that time. And a lot more of the banks out there were kind of tapped out with some of their lending. So they were liking the fact that they weren't carrying these things on their books for a while, but they're carrying that risk. But
Yeah, and I, like I said, don't have the solution here, but Jim, if you kind of think about it, if there were a program, it seems like these dollars, as you said, John, were used more in what would be sort of the Main Street business type program, the retail businesses. There were fast food restaurants funded through this, and body shops and gas stations, and one probably good use was daycares and things like that. So it hasn't been one that's been heavily industrially used for job creation. And so-
Yeah, think of the 4 that went through the Fargo City Commission recently. 2 were daycare, and 1 was a Main Street business that'll be on Broadway.
Yep.
And so I think, yeah, that might be more, what we need. But with the need for daycare in the community, I don't know how many of the daycare businesses know about this potential, loan program where they could assist with the capital needs. And so I think just trying to get information out would be important.
And
So-
I might add too, the ones that Jim's are talking about that have to come for you for the letter, that's through the flex base. So the nice thing about that is that by Fargo saying, yep, we support this program, a project, let's use it, it does trigger a matching grant from the Bank of North Dakota. So generally about double of what the amount would be from that project. It provides that. So it'd be something to think about too, if there's certain projects going forward that are important to the city, you can think about, hey, they should maybe, them and their bankers should look at the FlexPace program. And again, I'm here anytime for questions. You know that program really well. So that's the newer part of it. And then the bread and butter, again, over the years has been that gap financing tool. And that's the example of like the co-schedule when they were putting all the pieces together to buy that building to figure out how they can use incentives. That program helped them bring the equity portion down. That's probably what's the best use of this program, is that it can reduce the equity down to about as low as 10% for the borrower, much like the SBA 504. It's really similar. You can't use both; it's one or the other, but that's a good use of the program too. And that's the stuff like a banker would need to kind of have that more in the back of their mind.
So do we need a motion?
Yeah, if John Eisert is willing to serve, I suggest you nominate him and ask the Fargo City Commission to be the representative for Fargo.
And that's a 25-year appointment?
I think it's a 10-year appointment.
Yeah, it's not
John.
10 years. It's I just happen to be 10 years.
Okay, that's it for today. Thanks, John. Congratulations. Anything else to add? Otherwise, we are adjourned. Thank you.